Reddit, what is the most unusual Bible verse? Ezekiel 16:26 You engaged in prostitution with the Egyptians, your neighbors with large genitals, and aroused my anger with your increasing promiscuity. The story this verse is a part of fits well with the whole biblical narrative, but why that extra detail about the Egyptians? Because they have long schlongs bro, Egyptian can confirm. Is this something that would be pretty obvious on hieroglyphics? Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his palace and said, I have a message from God for you. As the king rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into the king's belly. 22 Even the handle sank in after the blade, and his bowels discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. Judges 3:20. The best part comes in the verses 24 and 25, where his servants thought because his door was closed that he was having a poo and thus didn't go check on him. Which he kinda was. I mean, his bowels did empty, dude. Try Genesis 38:3-10. TL, Dr. NSFW version. R/the visible version. Onan was instructed by God to fuck his dead brother's wife, give her a cream pie and knock her up. God had just struck her husband dead too, for being a jackass. Onan was like, no way, Tamar be thick as hell but I ain't dealing with baby mama issues. So after Pound Town, he instead came on her titties, floor and probably made her swallow. God was mad as hell and was like, TF is wrong with these Judah brothers? So he also struck him dead. TL, Dr. SFW version. The story of Onan, son of Judah, occurs in Genesis 38:3-10. So, Shua, the wife of Judah, conceived and bore a son, and Judah called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his, and it came to pass, when he went into his brother's wife, that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. Song of Songs 4:5. Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Solomon was one horny dude. He had 1,000 wives, and about 400 of those were inherited from his father. Imagine inheriting your mom as a wife. He probably inherited the other 400 wives that didn't include his mom. I know, some other dude just told me it's against the law of Moses so he probably didn't do that. As if he didn't do other things against the law of Moses but anyway. My fave is the very end of Jonah. Jonah is in the desert but found a tiny tree with a gourd to give him shade. After a bit, the gourd shriveled and dies, and Jonah must suffer in the sun again. Jonah cusses out the gourd. Right then God came down to Jonah and chastised him good. Jonah, that gourd existed by no labor of your own. Jonah was a really weird guy and I love him. He's so relatable. Whenever I talk about him I always portray him as a early 2000s emo kid with hair over one of his eyes. Just throw me in the water, like, it's whatever. Oh my god. I don't want to be a prophet, Dad. Slams door shut. It's not a schism, Mom, it's who I am. I don't know if it's the most unusual, but I always like the fact that Numbers 12:3, written by Moses, says now Moses was a very humble man. More humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. I also love how John referred to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved and also specifically mentions that he was faster than Peter and beat him to the empty tomb. John 23:4. It's great to think about how a little bit of pettiness, or maybe good-natured ball-busting, between two people has been preserved over 2,000 years. It also made sense because, if I remember correctly, Peter was an older guy, for the time, and a bit chubby, while John was a sprite teenager, so like Peter Parker bragging he could outrun Tony Stark. Judges 15:16 And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. Dude. Samson was a fucking beast. There should definitely be a movie made about him. There was a theatric Bible series on Netflix or some other streaming platform I saw a while back. The Samson episode was pretty good. Also, they made a game after him called Doom. I don't remember the verse in the Bible mentioning that Samson was a space marine on Mars. If two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, 12 You shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity, Deuteronomy 25:11-12, oddly specific. I hate when that happens. Well, whom among us hasn't been in this situation before? Edit, don't throw away your money on Reddit, you dinguses. We're in a fucking pandemic. The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines. Yeah, that was messed up, although pretty sure the point of that was to deter David from trying to marry his daughter. I'd say mission accomplished, except David came back with 200 Philistine foreskins, and the king could then sew himself a sweet hoodie made of Philistine foreskins. What use would a hoodie that shrinks in the cold be? Just give it a couple of rubs and it would be up to XXL size, in no time. Jeremiah chapter 13:13 This is what the Lord said to me, Go and buy yourself a linen undergarment and put it on, but do not put it in water. 2 So I bought underwear as the Lord instructed me and put it on. 3 Then the word of the Lord came to me a second time, 4 Take the underwear that you bought and are wearing, and go at once to the Euphrates Sea, and hide it in a rocky crevice. 5 So I went and hid it by the Euphrates, as the Lord commanded me. 6 A long time later the Lord said to me, Go at once to the Euphrates and get the underwear that I commanded you to hide there. 7 So I went to the Euphrates and dug up the underwear and got it from the place where I had hidden it, but it was ruined, of no use at all. 8 Then the word of the Lord came to me, 9 This is what the Lord says, just like this I will ruin the great pride of both Judah and Jerusalem. TLDR, God had a man bury underwear and then retrieve it after a long time to prove a point. Yeah, Ezekiel had to do even weirder things. He had to make a miniature model of Jerusalem out of a brick, make tiny little enemies to lay siege to it, tie himself up, and stare at it for days. Also, he ate bread cooked with dung. Wasn't dung a common source of cooking heat in those days? Still is in many parts of the world. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times? This one is weird even with context. He said it in Eddie Murphy's voice. I totally read that in Eddie Murphy's voice. I even saw it in my head. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, You've gotta try a little tenderness. I have always been partial to Jeremiah 10:5. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field, their idols cannot speak, they must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them, they can do no harm nor can they do any good. I love the comparison to scarecrows in a field, but specifically a cucumber field. How random. A scarecrow in a cucumber field. Sounds like a good metaphor for impotence. I thought the saying was you're as innocent as a nun doing squats in a cucumber field. Lol, I was going to say something about your mom in a cucumber field, but I like your joke more. He said to Jacob, Let me eat some of that red stuff because I'm exhausted. Genesis 25:30 Something about the way this is worded makes it seem strange. Or stew. Interpretation from one language to another is fun, especially from the extremely descriptive language of Biblical Hebrew. I just read the Hebrew and it basically does say red stuff. Or more specially gimme some of that red. Lol. Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. In the NIV translation, it says but money is the answer to everything, implying that while food and drink are fun, you gotta get out and work for that dollar bill. So God is essentially the Wu-Tang Clan. My personal favorite is Song of Solomon 5:4. Web translation is My beloved thrust his hand in through the latch opening. My heart pounded for him. Which already sounds kinky AF. But I particularly like how the KJV describes this butterflies in the stomach feeling. My beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. I just now at 24 years of age realized those are innuendos. I was so sheltered from sex when I was Christian I never recognized it. Wow. I read Song of Solomon when I was 13, when no one was around, cause I knew it was about sex gasp, and I was incredibly confused. Didn't click at all. Read it again at 19 and I couldn't believe my eyes, made me blush harder than a tomato in the sun. Interestingly enough, apparently in certain Jewish traditions Song of Solomon was off limits during puberty since the erotic bits might distract from the overall message of celebrating love and sex. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have a similar story, share it in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. Have a great day, or night.